They called me the maid in front of everyone. But nobody knew I secretly controlled millions. Thanksgiving has always been a minefield at my house, but this year was worse than ever. I walked into the dining room holding my 8-year-old daughter Lily's hand, trying to keep my smile steady while 14 guests stared at me. My father, grinning like he was proud of himself, announced, "And this is Thea, our maid." Laughter rippled around the table, polite and forced, but my stomach sank. I swallowed hard, telling myself to stay composed, to play along because my father thrived on humiliation. Every year he found a way to remind me, and everyone else, that I wasn't good enough. But this time something felt different. Something was about to change. Lily tugged at my sleeve and whispered, "Mommy is being a maid bad?" Her voice was small, innocent, but it hit me like a punch. I wanted to kneel down and tell her the truth, that the word maid had never defined me, and it certainly didn't define her mother. But I didn't. Not yet. I had a plan, a story that would finally get the respect I deserved. I took a deep breath and continued serving food, hiding the mixture of anger and excitement building inside me. Years ago, after a messy divorce, I had vowed to take control of my life. I started with small jobs, cleaning houses, organizing rentals, doing odd jobs just to keep food on the table. People laughed at me, even some of my closest relatives, saying I would never amount to anything. But I had a secret. I was working on something bigger. I saved every penny, learned the business side of real estate, and quietly built my network. Slowly, I turned my small side hustle into a company. By the time Lily was born, I owned and managed multiple properties worth millions, employing a small team, and handling VIP clients who trusted me with their entire homes. But no one in my family knew. They thought I was just the maid. As I placed mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce on the table, I noticed one guest, a man my father had invited, watching me closely. My heart skipped a beat when I realized who it was. One of my largest clients. Someone whose properties I had managed for over 5 years. I had no idea he would be at this dinner. Suddenly, the humiliation of my father's announcement collided with the opportunity for revelation. I kept my composure, even as my mind raced with how to make this moment unforgettable. The dinner proceeded, with my father cracking jokes at my expense, showing off how little he thought of me. My relatives nodded, laughed, and whispered behind my back, but I ignored them. Lily's eyes never left mine, filled with confusion and worry, and I wanted so badly to show her that her mother was more than this cruel label. When the main course was finished, my father stood to give a toast. He talked about family, tradition, and the hard work of his children, subtly mocking me in front of everyone. I held my head high, keeping Lily close, waiting for the perfect moment. Then it happened. My father mentioned his VIP guest and how impressed he was with the maid, who had managed to keep her head above water. I braced myself for laughter, but instead the guest stood, smiled at me, and said, "I think you've got the wrong idea. This is Thea, the woman who manages my properties. She built a multimillion-dollar business from scratch, and I trust her with everything I own." The room went silent. My family froze, the polite chuckles vanished, and my father's face turned bright red. I felt Lily squeeze my hand tightly, and I realized she was seeing the truth for the first time. She was seeing her mother as more than a servant. She was seeing a woman who had worked tirelessly, who had refused to give up, and who had earned every bit of her success. I took a deep breath and calmly explained my story. How I had started small, built a company worth $2.3 million, managed multiple VIP clients, and created a life of independence for myself and my daughter. Every word was a declaration of my worth, a demonstration that labels given by others could never define me. My family was stunned, unable to speak. My father, usually so confident in humiliating me, had nothing to say. I had flipped the script and there was no going back. The rest of the dinner was surreal. My client spoke highly of me, reinforcing the truth I had just revealed, while my relatives exchanged awkward glances. Lily's eyes shone with pride. and I felt a sense of liberation I had never known. It wasn't just about money. It was about respect, validation, and showing my daughter that resilience and intelligence triumph over cruelty and ridicule. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she whispered, "Mommy, you're amazing." And in that moment, I realized the true power of my revenge. It wasn't humiliation, it wasn't exposing my father. It was showing myself and my daughter that I am unstoppable, that my worth is self-defined, and that I don't need anyone's permission to shine. I had finally turned a painful past into a victorious present. In the days following Thanksgiving, I noticed a subtle shift in my family. They still tried to hide their embarrassment, but they could no longer dismiss me. The client I had quietly worked with for years continued to speak about my professionalism and success, ensuring my family understood that I wasn't just the maid. It wasn't about revenge. It was about proving that hard work, patience, and perseverance would always speak louder than words. I started sharing my story with friends and colleagues, and the response was overwhelming. Women reached out, inspired by how I had transformed humiliation into motivation, and I began mentoring them. I wanted to show them that labels are meaningless when you define your own worth. Lily watched me, her eyes sparkling with pride, and I knew that I had given her a lesson she would carry forever. Nothing can define you except yourself. Looking back, I see now that my father's insult, though painful, was the catalyst I needed. It pushed me to work harder, to prove my worth, and to teach my daughter the value of self-respect. That Thanksgiving, standing in front of my family, I wasn't just claiming my success. I was claiming my dignity, my power, and my identity. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or humiliated, remember this. Your strength is defined by your actions, your resilience, and your refusal to let others dictate your worth. Don't wait for approval. You are already enough, and your time will come. If you enjoyed this story, hit the subscribe button for more incredible stories that inspire and empower. And tell me, have you ever experienced something like this? Or is there someone in your family who's been underestimated? Think about it, because sometimes the most powerful stories are happening right under your nose.